It's 9:42 p.m. here in Richmond, Virginia. The air outside is thick with humidity, even though the temperature has dropped to the low 70s. From my seat in this small station room, the only sound I hear when I open the window is silence. No cars, no chatter, no buzz of the city. Just the stillness of a place that used to breathe and hum every night. This is Reed Daniels, and you're listening to 107.4 FM. Somehow, against all odds, the generator in the basement is still giving me enough juice to keep this station alive. As long as the diesel holds out, this voice will keep cutting through the darkness. If you're hearing this, drop your coordinates, or just your city. Let us know who's still alive out there. I should explain what happened, at least as much as I can piece together. It began 3 nights ago when the lights across the city blinked out all at once. Not the usual rolling blackout, not the storm-knocked lines we've all seen before, but a total collapse. Power plants shut down in sequence like dominoes, each station going cold in the space of half an hour. At first, I thought it was a grid failure, something technical, something repair crews would fix by morning. But then the phones went dead, not just here but everywhere. Cell towers dropped offline, internet cut out, satellites no longer relaying. By the second night, the television stations had fallen silent, every channel replaced by static or a looping government emergency notice that itself soon vanished. The last clear signal I caught was from a military frequency, repeating one phrase: DEFCON 1 has been activated. Those words haven't been used in this country since the Cuban Missile Crisis, and even then they weren't officially confirmed. To hear them now, in my lifetime, as the last words before the airwaves went dead, that was the moment I knew this wasn't just an outage. This was war, the kind they always told us we wouldn't survive. Out my window, I can see the faint glow of fires on the horizon, mostly east toward the shipyard and south along the interstate. No sirens, no fire engines, no helicopters overhead, just flames eating away at whatever they can find. I saw people in the streets earlier today, neighbors I've known for years, wandering with that same dazed look I must be wearing, clutching bags, pushing carts, some just walking without any direction at all. Most of the grocery stores were stripped clean by the afternoon of the first day. Bread, water, milk, even dog food, all gone. By yesterday morning, men with rifles were standing at the doors of the few shops that still had supplies left. Not police, not guards, just citizens who decided what was left was theirs. I've had a lot of time to sit here and think about the first sign, the first crack in the illusion of safety. For me, it was when the plane stopped. We're used to that steady line of lights in the night sky, the hum of engines as flights pass overhead on their way to DC or Charlotte. That hum went silent the same night the grid went down. At first, I thought it was part of the blackout. Maybe air traffic was grounded for safety. But then, word spread that jets had been scrambled over the Atlantic. Some said Russian bombers had crossed the line. Others whispered about missiles tracked from Europe. Nobody knew for sure, but everyone felt the same thing, that something irreversible had been set in motion. Now, the government is quiet. The mayor is gone, the governor hasn't spoken, and Washington itself is dark on the maps I've seen. There's talk of strikes, New York, DC, maybe Chicago, but without the networks, nobody can confirm anything. It's all rumor, and rumor spreads faster than fire when people are hungry and afraid. I'm trying to keep this broadcast steady, not just for me, but for anyone still turning the dial in the dark. Maybe you're sitting in a car with the battery barely holding. Maybe you're huddled around a small hand-crank radio in your living room. If you hear me, know this. The world we had on Monday is gone. What comes next is survival. If you still have water in your taps, fill every container you own. Jugs, buckets, even your bathtub. Once the treatment plants stop, the pipes will run dry. If you've got canned food, ration it. Don't eat just because you're scared. Stay inside when you can, lock your doors, and don't draw attention with lights or noise. People are desperate, and desperation changes a person faster than hunger ever does. This is not the kind of broadcast I ever thought I'd make, but maybe it's the only thing keeping us connected. I'll keep talking as long as this old station can hum, and I'll keep telling the truth of what I see and hear. If the world really is collapsing into war, then the least I can do is leave a record, one steady voice cutting through the static. The night is heavy now. I can hear the distant pop of gunfire, faint but real, from the west side of the river. Whether it's soldiers or neighbors, I can't say. All I know is that this is only the beginning. You're listening to 107.4 FM. This is Reed Daniels, still here, still breathing, still speaking into the void. If you're out there, hold on. It's past midnight now. I don't have a clock that I trust anymore, but I can feel it in my bones, the way the air cools and the quiet settles even deeper. The hum of the generator is the only rhythm left in this room, and I swear every sputter makes my chest tighten, because I know once it dies, I'll be just another silent shadow in a silent city. This is still 107.4 FM, and I'm still Reed Daniels. I'll keep repeating that, because I need to remind myself that I'm still here, still tethered to something real, while everything else slips away. The city is unraveling faster than I thought it would. Richmond always had this stubborn pride, like we'd outlast anything. Storms, floods, even the pandemic years. But pride doesn't stop shelves from going empty, doesn't stop people from looking at their neighbors like they're threats instead of friends. Earlier today, I stepped outside for the first time since yesterday, just to feel the air, just to see if there was any sign of life. The street was littered with trash that hadn't been there before. Broken glass, torn bags, the scattered guts of someone's hurried escape. Down the block, I saw smoke rising from a house I used to pass every day on my way to the station. The family who lived there. I don't know if they set it themselves before leaving or if someone else lit it after. All I could smell was plastic and wood burning together, that bitter mix that clings to your clothes. People are starting to vanish into the dark, not in the sense of disappearing, but withdrawing, pulling back into whatever safe corner they can find. Houses that used to glow warm in the evening are now blacked out. Windows covered with sheets or cardboard. It's eerie, like the whole neighborhood has gone blind at the same time. And yet, when I was walking, I felt eyes on me, curtains twitching, someone holding their breath until I passed. Everyone is scared of each other now, and that might be the cruelest part of all this. I need to talk about what I picked up earlier on the shortwave. Around 10:30 tonight, a faint signal cut through, barely more than a whisper under static. A man's voice, worn down, broken. He said, "Paris is gone." He didn't explain, didn't give details, just repeated it over and over until the signal faded. Paris. My chest locked up hearing that. If true, it means Europe has been hit hard, harder than we feared. I can't verify it, but I've learned something in the past few nights. Whispers like these don't come out of nowhere. They're rooted in something real. After that, I caught fragments from another band. A woman's voice this time, American, maybe military. She spoke quickly, almost too fast to follow. Chicago, Boston, New York, all compromised. Compromised. That was the word. Not destroyed, not evacuated. Compromised. I don't know if that means strikes, if it means occupation, or if it's just code for something worse. She cut out before I could catch more, but the way she said it didn't sound like an announcement. It sounded like a confession, like someone spilling the truth into the dark because no one else was left to hear it. I've been thinking about the silence from Washington. We're not that far from the Capitol, and usually when something goes wrong, you can feel the weight of government trying to hold itself together. This time, nothing. No motorcades, no helicopters, no distant thrum of jets patrolling overhead. It's like the whole structure folded in on itself overnight. Some people out there are still clinging to the idea that the president is safe in a bunker, that the Pentagon still has its hand on the wheel. But I don't believe it. Not anymore. When the voice of a nation goes quiet, it means the nation itself is bleeding out. I should probably use this time to talk about survival, because I don't know how long this signal will carry. If you're listening, understand this. The first wave of panic is the most dangerous. People are still in shock now, still frozen. But soon, hunger will take over. Fear will turn into something sharper. I saw a man today at the old gas station down on Main. He had a shotgun cradled in his arms and a box of cereal tucked under the other. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even aggressive. He just looked hollow, like all that mattered was that box, like he would have killed me if I so much as looked at it too long. If you have food, hide it. Not on shelves, not in cupboards. Bury it, scatter it, make sure it doesn't all sit in one place. And water. God, water's already becoming scarce. The taps in this building went dry about 6 hours ago. If you still have pressure, fill everything. Use bleach to clean containers if you can. 8 drops per gallon. If you don't have bleach, boil it for a full minute once you have a fire going. It's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. As for power, I've got this generator, but it's hungry, and the fuel isn't endless. If you can find solar, even small panels, treasure them. Old car batteries too. Anything that can hold a charge will be worth more than gold in the weeks ahead. Don't waste it on lights. Use candles. Use lanterns. Save the power for radios. Maybe a small pump. Anything that keeps you alive. The night feels heavier now. My ears are ringing from how quiet it is. But under that quiet, I think I just heard another crack. Gunfire, closer this time. Not the faint pops I mentioned earlier, but sharp, echoing down the river. It makes me wonder if the lines have already reached us, if what hit New York or Paris is crawling its way here. This is 107.4 FM, and I'm Reed Daniels, still holding on to this voice while I can. If you're listening, I'll be back as long as this signal carries. If the world is collapsing, then maybe this will be our lifeline. Raw, unpolished, but human. And in the end, maybe that's all that matters. It's hard to track the time now, but judging from how long the generator's been running and the way the air feels, I'd say it's somewhere close to 2 in the morning. The city is darker than I've ever seen it. No glow from downtown, no red lights from towers, not even the occasional sweep of headlights across the streets. Just a void, a hollow black where Richmond used to be alive. This is 107.4 FM. I'm Reed Daniels, still speaking, still breathing, though the world outside feels like it's breathing its last. Something changed tonight, something I need to tell you about. For the first time since this collapse began, I saw uniforms in the streets. Not many, just a convoy of 3 trucks moving west along Broad Street. They had their lights off, engines muffled, but I recognized the shapes. Military, no doubt. The strange part was how few of them there were. Maybe 20 soldiers at most, moving fast, almost desperate. They weren't protecting anyone, weren't distributing aid, nothing like that. They were hauling crates, heavy ones, into one of the abandoned office towers. I could hear the slam of steel cases hitting the floor even from where I stood. Whatever's left of the chain of command, it isn't here for us. They're consolidating, holding on to whatever matters to them. Ammo, rations, equipment. The people outside those trucks were ignored like ghosts. Martial law isn't announced anymore. It just shows itself in shadows. Earlier in the night, I heard gunfire that lasted longer than a few scattered shots. A rolling burst, probably automatic. When I climbed up to the roof, I could see the muzzle flashes about a mile out. It looked like a checkpoint or a barricade near the bridge. Later, silence. Then smoke. My gut tells me they were trying to hold a crossing, keep the river as a line. If that's true, it means the military's not defending neighborhoods anymore. They're drawing maps, carving zones, writing us off if we're outside their circle. And then there are the neighbors. People I used to nod to in the mornings, people whose kids played ball in the park just last month. They're turning. Not infected, not sick, just stripped bare by fear. Tonight, I watched 2 men fight in the middle of the street over a 5-gallon gas can. One of them had a bat, the other a knife. The one with the knife walked away. He didn't even run, just walked. The other man didn't get up. I don't think he ever will. And the worst part? The people watching didn't scream, didn't try to help. They just pulled their curtains shut. That's where we are now, when survival means pretending you didn't see a neighbor bleed out on the asphalt. I need to pass along what little I've pieced together from the scattered bands still whispering across the radio. There's talk, unconfirmed, but consistent, that the first wave of strikes wasn't just nuclear. Some say electromagnetic pulses were launched first, frying communications, shutting down defense systems before the missiles even landed. If that's true, it explains why the grid collapsed so cleanly, why phones and satellites blinked out almost in unison. It wasn't nature. It wasn't accident. It was planned, precise. One voice, faint, claimed Washington was hit directly, not with a bomb, but with something smaller, surgical, maybe chemical. That could explain the silence, the vacuum where leadership used to be. Another whisper said Norfolk was struck hard, the naval yards crippled. If that's true, it means the Atlantic Fleet is scattered or destroyed. Europe's already burning, Paris gone, maybe Berlin too. And if our East Coast command is broken, then the Atlantic itself is wide open. The air tastes different tonight. Maybe it's just smoke. Maybe it's something more. I don't want to scare you without proof, but if chemical weapons were used, if the winds shift, we'll need to adapt. Wet cloth over your mouth and nose, sealed rooms if you can make them. Tape over vents, blankets over cracks and doors. It won't stop everything, but it could buy you time. I keep telling myself I'll stay steady, but the truth is, I'm tired. My hands shake when I grip this mic, and sometimes I forget what day it is. Still, there's something grounding about this. Speaking into the dark, imagining someone out there nodding, listening, clinging to the same thread. As long as I can keep this frequency alive, none of us are fully alone. For now, lock your doors tighter, trust less, prepare more. The world we knew is falling into dust, but if you can still hear me, That means there's life left in the ruin. This is 107.4 FM. I'm Reed Daniels, and I'll keep the signal alive as long as my lungs hold. It's sometime in the dead hours now, maybe 3, maybe closer to 4. Time's slipping like water through my fingers. The generator's rumble has become this strange companion, a heartbeat that doesn't belong to me, but one I've come to rely on. Outside, Richmond feels hollow. The city used to hum, used to have layers of sound that never really left. Trains in the distance, trucks down at 95, planes overhead, music leaking from bars. Now, nothing but silence and the occasional crack that makes my skin crawl. This is 107.4 FM. I'm Reed Daniels, and if my voice is reaching you, then know you're not the only one awake in this wreckage. I need to tell you what I picked up tonight. Around an hour ago, a military frequency came through clear for maybe 30 seconds before it vanished. It was clipped, rushed, panicked. They said New York City had been hit, confirmed nuclear strike. The details were scattered, but I caught the words, Lower Manhattan, evacuation impossible, and then just static. I sat here with the mic in my hand, staring at the wall, unable to breathe. New York, the city that never slept, just silenced in one brutal flash. Not long after, another fragment drifted in from the shortwave. A voice, European this time, faint but desperate. She said Berlin was gone. She said radiation plumes were already moving east with the wind. Her voice cracked when she tried to list the cities still standing, and then she cut out. Paris, Berlin, New York. They're not just cities. They're symbols, and those symbols are burning. It's not just the cities, though. I'm hearing reports, scattered but repeated, of rural towns starting to break under the weight of panic. Places that once thought they'd be safe because they weren't targets. Yesterday, people in the countryside were opening barns, sharing food, trying to steady one another. Tonight, I heard that in some of those same places, neighbors are turning their fields into fortresses. Barbed wire, shotguns on porches, strangers driven away at gunpoint. Some towns are blocking roads with tractors, setting up barricades like we've slid back 200 years into frontier law. The collapse isn't skipping them. It's just arriving slower, and sometimes slower is worse because it gives people more time to stew in fear. Out my own window earlier, I caught sight of something strange. A convoy of cars moving north, headlights covered with rags to keep them dim. At least 20 vehicles, all kinds, minivans, pickups, even a school bus stripped of paint. Families clinging to the hope that somewhere beyond this mess, there's safety. But I know the truth. Fuel won't last, roads are clogged, bridges might be gone. I hope they find something, but I fear they're driving toward empty fields, toward roads that end in silence. The official silence is worse than anything. No president, no governor, no mayor. Just rumors and whispers, carried across dead air. But I need you to understand, silence itself is information. If the government had control, they'd be talking. If the military had a handle on this, they'd be flooding every frequency, telling us where to go, what to do. The fact that they aren't, it means control is gone. I should talk about survival again, because that's the only thing left to hold on to. If you're in a rural area, start thinking about sustainability now. Gardens, wells, livestock, whatever you have, protect it. Food shipments are not coming back, not soon. If you're in the city and you're trapped, find high ground if you can. Fires will spread, and water may rise if pumps fail. Move supplies into the upper floors. Keep one way out. Don't trust anyone who shows up with nothing but open hands. They may be desperate, but desperation is a weapon all its own. There's a part of me that wants to just sit here and give up, to admit the world's gone, to close my eyes and let the silence swallow me. But another part, the part that's still speaking into this mic, won't let me. Because maybe someone out there needs this voice, needs the reminder that we're still here, that even if the cities burn, even if the governments fall, a voice in the dark means humanity hasn't fully died yet. I can feel dawn is a few hours away, though I don't know what it'll bring. The sky will light up again, but what kind of day follows? Smoke? Ash? More fire? All I know is I'll keep speaking until I can't. This is 107.4 FM, and I'm Reed Daniels, still breathing, still speaking, even as the world tears itself apart. It's creeping toward morning now. The sky isn't light yet, but there's a faint grayness seeping in at the edges, the kind of dim shift you feel before you can see it. I'm still here at 107.4 FM, and I'm still Reed Daniels, speaking into this silence that feels heavier every hour. The generator downstairs is coughing like it's got lungs of its own. Every sputter makes me flinch, because when it quits, I don't know what happens next. Maybe I sit here in the dark. Maybe I just stop talking altogether. Tonight, for the first time, I've started to smell the air differently. Smoke's been a constant since the grid went down. But this is sharper, metallic. There's a taste to it, a grit that clings to your tongue. I've heard enough rumors to know what that might mean. Radiation doesn't announce itself with a siren. It creeps in on the wind, invisible and patient. I picked up a faint broadcast earlier from the north, someone calling themselves a university lab out of Pennsylvania. Their voice was thin, but they said fallout plumes from the New York strike are drifting south with the jet stream. If that's true, it's only a matter of time before it settles here. I've been telling myself maybe they're wrong. Maybe the wind's shifted, but denial won't change the way my skin itches or the way that smell lingers. If you're listening and you're anywhere near these eastern corridors, take it seriously. Seal your windows if you can. Pile blankets, tarps, anything against the cracks. If you have basements, use them. Dirt and stone buy you more protection than glass and drywall. I know most of us don't have Geiger counters or fancy gear. All we've got is instinct, and whatever scraps of advice we remember from civil defense guides, nobody thought we'd ever need again. The streets here are shifting too. Last night, it was scattered violence, individuals clawing at each other for scraps. Tonight, I saw something colder, organized. I spotted 3 men moving together, armed, 2 with rifles, 1 with a pistol. They weren't just looting. They were clearing buildings, checking doors, talking quietly like they'd already decided the city was theirs to carve up. I kept my distance, ducked back before they saw me. But I knew that look. That was a unit. Not police, not soldiers. Civilians turned militia overnight. You can almost see it forming block by block. People aren't just surviving now. They're staking claims, territory, power. A woman I know from just down the street, Karen, used to wave to me every morning when she walked her dog. Tonight, I saw her on her porch with a shotgun across her lap. No smile, no wave, just eyes fixed on the road, waiting for anyone who dared step too close. That's who we're becoming. Neighbors turned wardens of their own tiny kingdoms. I think about the irony sometimes. All the modern systems we thought made us strong. Our grids, our satellites, our supply chains. They all collapsed in a matter of hours. And now it's the old ways that mean life or death. Wells, seeds, wood stoves, guns. things our great-grandparents leaned on before the world wired itself together. The future fell apart, and the past came roaring back overnight. The radios still whisper when I sweep the dial. Half the voices are military fragments, talking in codes I can't fully grasp. The other half are people like me, lonely voices clinging to transmitters, trying to keep a thread alive in the dark. One man in Ohio said his town voted to barricade itself, turn outsiders away with force. Another in Georgia claimed to see strange lights streaking across the sky. Not missiles this time, but something slower, drifting. Maybe drones. Maybe satellites falling back to Earth. Or maybe just fear twisting what he saw. I won't lie, I'm tired. My voice is rough, and my hands won't stop shaking. But I'll keep this going because maybe you're out there with a radio, wondering if you're alone. You're not. Not yet. As long as this frequency holds, you've got a voice to remind you of that. If you can, dig in, stay low, don't trust the silence outside, and remember, just because the world as we knew it has ended doesn't mean you have. This is 107.4 FM. I'm Reed Daniels, still speaking, still alive. The sky is starting to pale now, but it's not the kind of sunrise we used to know. No gold, no soft warmth creeping over the horizon, just a dull, dirty gray spreading across the clouds, the kind of light that feels sick instead of hopeful. This is 107.4 FM, and I'm Reed Daniels. I've been talking through the night, and if you're still tuned in, then you're surviving another dawn. That in itself is worth holding on to. I need to talk about what I picked up just before the first hint of daylight. A shortwave crackle, faint but steady, from somewhere to the south. The voice claimed Washington has been abandoned. Not just the city evacuated, but gutted. Government offices, empty. The Capitol, silent. The White House, left behind like a shell. He said convoys left days ago, carrying whoever was important enough to keep, while the rest were left to scatter. If that's true, and I'm starting to believe it is, then the capital of the United States is nothing more than a hollow carcass, right now. The heart of the country stopped beating, and all that's left are arteries spilling out in every direction. And they're spilling south. I've been watching it with my own eyes. Caravans are forming, not just here, but across the east. Long lines of vehicles crawling down the highways, packed with whatever people could strip from their lives in minutes. I saw one last night, a school bus leading the way, its windows covered with plywood, kids' faces pressed to the cracks just to glimpse the night. Behind it came a chain of trucks and cars, some limping with blown tires, others held together with tape and wire. They're chasing a rumor, chasing whispers that the South is safer, that maybe Florida or the Carolinas still have pockets of order. But the highways aren't built for hope. They're built for choke points. I heard scattered bursts of gunfire from the I-95 corridor, and I can only assume desperate convoys ran into desperate locals. You have to remember, when 100 cars full of hungry, thirsty people pull into a small town, that town sees an invasion. Not refugees, not neighbors, just mouths they can't feed. And so the road south is lined with barricades, some official, some just locals dragging logs across lanes, daring anyone to try and push through. The air's heavier this morning, too. That metallic taste I mentioned earlier, it's sharper now. The wind shifted overnight, and I worry it's carrying more than just smoke. The strike on New York wasn't just destruction, it was poison. Fallout doesn't care about maps or borders. It rides the air, clings to rain, seeps into soil. If you're listening in the path of that wind, take every step you can to shield yourself. Stay inside if possible. If you're caught outside, cover your skin, cover your mouth, and wash the moment you can. It's not perfect, but nothing about this will be. I've been hearing the same phrase repeated across bands. Containment failed. Those two words, carried from voices that sound too tired to lie. I don't know if they're talking about the military, the government, or something bigger, like the whole idea of control itself. Either way, I think it's the truth. Containment has failed. Whatever was unleashed, it's running wild now. And no borders, no armies, no speeches can stop it. What strikes me hardest this morning is how quickly humanity sheds its layers. A week ago, people were scrolling through phones, arguing about sports scores, standing in line at coffee shops. Now, they're piling into buses with boarded-up windows, clinging to children in the dark, clutching guns like lifelines. Civilization isn't something that erodes slowly. It shatters like glass. And I think we're standing in the shards now. I'll keep talking. Keep this frequency alive, because maybe my voice will help you feel less alone. If you're on the move, be careful. Roads aren't just paths anymore. They're battlegrounds. If you're staying put, guard your supplies and trust only those you truly know. This is 107.4 FM, and I'm Reed Daniels. The capital is gone. The roads south are full of ghosts, and the day ahead will not be kinder than the night we just survived. The light outside is stronger now, but it isn't morning the way I remember it. It's washed out, hazy, like the sun itself is struggling to break through a film of smoke and dust hanging in the air. I stepped out onto the fire escape just before coming back to this mic, and the air felt heavier than it should. My throat's raw, and every breath tastes faintly of iron. Maybe it's the fires. Maybe it's fallout drifting south. I don't know. All I know is it doesn't feel like the kind of dawn that brings relief. This is 107.4 FM, and I'm Reed Daniels, still speaking into a world that feels less like home with every passing hour. Something new happened in the sky last night, something I can't explain away as rumor. Around 3:30, I heard it first, a low drone, steady and mechanical, cutting through the silence above the city. It wasn't the roar of jets we used to hear on patrol, not the sharp crack of supersonic flight. This was slower, more deliberate. By the time I made it to the roof, I caught the silhouette against the smoke. Triangular, no navigation lights, gliding low and silent. Then another behind it, and another. Not ours, not the way they moved. Foreign, maybe. Or maybe something even stranger. Machines without pilots, unmanned. They didn't circle. They didn't attack. Just drifted south, hugging the river like they were mapping the land below. I've been sweeping the shortwave all night, and I caught a few bursts from voices I don't recognize. Accents, clipped and harsh. Russian, maybe. Could have been Chinese. Hard to know in the static. They weren't coded messages like the US military usually spits out. They were coordinates, lists, directions. That's what chilled me most. They weren't looking for targets. They already knew where they were. And here on the ground, I think the locals know something's changing. People aren't just afraid of each other now. They're looking up. I saw a family standing in the middle of the street, kids clutching blankets, the father staring at the horizon with his jaw tight, like he was waiting for the sky itself to fall. When I stepped back inside, I caught the reflection of myself in the glass, and I realized I had the same look. I want to believe those drones, or whatever they were ours. Some last shred of American power still sweeping the skies. But deep down, I don't think so. I think we've been cracked open, and others are already moving in to pick the bones clean. It wouldn't be the first time in history. When empires fall, vultures always circle. I need to warn anyone listening. If you see aircraft, if you hear that low hum in the night, don't signal, don't draw attention. Stay dark. Lights out, no fires that can be seen from above. You can't know who's piloting those machines or what they're searching for. And until you do, assume they're not here to save you. There's another rumor I can't shake. A faint signal I caught said troops, foreign ones, had been spotted on the ground near Norfolk. No uniforms that anyone recognized, no flags, just armored vehicles moving inland. The man who said it cut out before I could catch where he was. Maybe it's false, maybe it's paranoia. But given what I saw in the sky, I can't dismiss it anymore. I can't tell you how to survive this, except the same way we've always done in the dark. Quietly, cautiously, holding on to what little you've got left. Trust your gut. Hide more than you reveal. And never assume the people coming down your street are coming to help. This is 107.4 FM, and I'm Reed Daniels. If you hear the sky humming tonight, stay inside. Because whatever's moving above us, it isn't here for mercy. The haze is thicker now, and the sun is little more than a pale disk smothered in smoke. It doesn't warm the streets, doesn't bring clarity, just paints everything in a sickly light that makes Richmond look like a ghost of itself. The silence is worse in daylight. At least at night, the dark hides things, softens them. But now, I can see it plain. Cars abandoned in intersections, windows shattered, doors hanging open like jaws. The city isn't sleeping. It's been left behind. This is 107.4 FM. I'm Reed Daniels, and I need to tell you about what's starting to take shape here. I've seen soldiers before, real ones, the kind that carry themselves with discipline even when the world's crumbling around them. What I saw this morning wasn't that. Down on Broad, maybe half a mile east of where I'm sitting, there was a skirmish. You could hear it first. The sharp crack of rifles. Not random gunfire, but bursts, trained, controlled. I climbed to the roof just enough to see without being seen. At least a dozen men moving in formation, pushing west. Their uniforms dark, but not ones I recognized. No American patches, no State Guard insignia. And they weren't alone. Armored vehicles, squat and angular, rumbling slow behind them. Not tanks exactly, but close enough. Enough to pin a city street and make anyone standing there powerless. The sound carried further than it should have, bouncing between the empty buildings, sharp enough to make me duck even from a distance. A group of locals, maybe a handful of men with hunting rifles, tried to make a stand near the corner store. I could see their shapes, crouched behind wrecked cars, firing wildly. They didn't last. The response was precise, mechanical. Within minutes, it was over. The street went quiet, except for the slow grind of those armored vehicles rolling past. Whoever they are, they're not here to stabilize. They're not handing out food, not setting up aid tents. They're securing ground. That much is clear. And the locals? They're figuring it out fast. The makeshift militias that started forming in the dark hours. They've got targets now, but it's suicide. A neighbor I used to nod at, Ray, said he saw one of the foreign patrols stop outside a warehouse and drag out anyone hiding inside. Men, women, kids, it didn't matter. They were marched down the street at gunpoint. Where to? Nobody knows. The way he told it, his voice cracked, like he'd aged 10 years overnight just from watching. I picked up a broken broadcast on the shortwave earlier. faint but steady enough to catch fragments. Eastern seaboard, loss of command, foreign presence confirmed. Those were the words, confirmed. Whoever's still out there in uniform, whoever's left on the other end of that signal, they're admitting it now. This isn't just collapse, it's occupation. If you're listening, I need you to understand what this means. Surviving now isn't just about food and water. It's about staying unseen. These aren't looters you can scare off with a locked door. These are trained forces, with vehicles and weapons most of us can't dream of countering. They'll clear whole blocks without blinking. So if you're in the city, blend into the silence. No fires visible from outside, no shouting, no music, nothing that draws a wandering patrol. And if you hear engines rolling closer, don't run. Hide. Running marks you as prey. Hiding makes you part of the ruins. I never thought I'd live to see the day where our streets echoed with foreign boots, where the flag over the Capitol meant nothing, and the sound of an engine made you wonder what language the men inside would speak. But that's where we are now. This isn't theory anymore. It's happening. This is 107.4 FM. I'm Reed Daniels. And if you're hearing this, hold your breath a little longer. Because we're not just surviving collapse now. We're surviving invasion. The morning is crawling forward, though it feels like time has slowed to a crawl. The light is brighter now, but it's a dirty kind of daylight, diffused through smoke and dust, painting the world in shades of ash. I'm still here on 107.4 FM, and I'm still Reed Daniels. My voice is tired, but I'll keep talking as long as this frequency holds, because silence feels heavier than words, and I don't think any of us can afford silence anymore. I said last night that militias were forming, neighbors turning into guards of their own streets. Well, now I can tell you, it's no longer just people holding the line against looters. This morning, I witnessed the first pushback against those foreign patrols. Not an organized army, not trained soldiers, just desperate men and women who'd had enough of watching their streets get taken block by block. It happened on the edge of Monroe Ward, near that old brick warehouse with half the roof caved in. A foreign convoy was passing through. 2 armored trucks, maybe a dozen soldiers on foot. They were moving steady, methodical, like they weren't expecting resistance. Then, from the rooftops, it came. Shots cracked, echoing sharp through the empty streets. Homemade Molotovs followed, glass shattering, fire blooming against steel. It was clumsy, reckless, but it was raw defiance. For a moment, it worked. One of the vehicles ground to a halt, flames licking the sides. The soldiers scattered, taking cover, shouting in a language I didn't recognize. And then, the counter came, fast, brutal. Automatic fire swept the windows. I saw bricks splinter, glass explode outward. Screams. The second vehicle swung its gun toward the roofline and opened fire. That was the end of it. Silence came back like a curtain falling. I don't know how many of those locals made it out. Maybe none. But what struck me was what followed. The soldiers didn't linger, didn't check bodies or drag people out like before. They moved on, quickly, almost nervously, leaving the burning truck behind. It was the first time I've seen them shaken. The first crack in that mechanical calm. They bled today, and that means they can bleed again. But here's the hard truth. This kind of resistance comes at a cost. For every rooftop ambush, there'll be a crackdown. Whole blocks might suffer for what a handful of fighters dared to do. I don't say that to scare you. I say it so you understand the stakes. If you choose to fight, be ready to pay in more than just bullets. If you choose to hide, don't think you're safe forever. Because they're mapping us, learning us, just as we're watching them. There are whispers on the bands that strikes weren't just here and in Europe. Someone from the Midwest claimed St. Louis saw flashes in the night sky, and the Mississippi itself lit up like glass. Another voice said, Atlanta is gone quiet, no signals, no movement, just a dead spot on the dial where a dozen frequencies used to hum. If that's true, then this isn't just invasion, it's dissection. Major cities carved out, one after another, until all that's left are pockets like ours, clinging to the ruins. I don't know what tomorrow looks like. Maybe more convoys, maybe more ambushes, maybe nothing at all, just emptiness spreading until there's no one left to resist. But for now, I can tell you this. People are fighting back. Not many, not enough, but enough to show the occupiers that these streets aren't theirs for free. If you're listening, remember, if you choose to fight, do it smart. Don't waste bullets in the open. Use rooftops, alleys, shadows. Never fight alone. And if you're not ready for that, then stay hidden. Stay alive. Because every breath you take in this new world is an act of defiance. This is 107.4 FM, and I'm Reed Daniels. The city is bleeding, but it hasn't rolled over yet. The day is fully broken now, though it doesn't feel like any day I've ever known. The sky has that sickly, washed-out look, as if the sun is fighting through a film of ash and dust. The heat is low, almost damp, but the air feels heavier with every hour. Richmond is quiet, far too quiet for a city of its size. I can hear the creak of old buildings settling, the occasional crash of something falling somewhere blocks away. But the human sounds, the laughter, the engines, the chatter, those are gone. This is 107.4 FM, and I'm Reed Daniels. If you're still out there, still tuning in, you need to know what's happening beneath the silence. The streets are changing. It's not just scavenging anymore, not just neighbors shutting themselves behind locked doors. A network is forming, thin and fragile, but it's there. In the shadows of abandoned stores, in the basements of buildings that still stand, survivors are trading. Not with money. Money is dead now. It's food, water, batteries, bullets, information. That's the new currency. A man I ran into near the bus depot whispered about a place under an old mechanic's shop where people barter for bread or a handful of rounds. Another swore there's a woman near the river trading medicine for diesel fuel. These aren't markets, not the way we used to know them. They're whispers, quick exchanges, always on the move. Nobody stays in one place long enough to get caught. And they have to move because the patrols are tightening their grip. This morning, just before I came back to this mic, I saw foreign soldiers sweeping down Carey Street. Methodical, one building at a time. They weren't rushing, weren't looting. They were searching. And when they moved on, the buildings they left behind had marks painted on the doors. Red stripes, thick and crude, sprayed fast. I don't know what the marks mean yet. Cleared, claimed, condemned, but it felt final, like the city itself was being cataloged house by house. People are adapting. I saw a family hauling buckets up from a well near Monroe Park, using old ropes and pulleys like something out of the 19th century. No electricity, no pumps. But the water was real, and everyone who spotted them watched with a hunger sharper than thirst. In another alley, a group of kids no older than 16 were fixing up bicycles, scavenging chains and gears from wrecked cars. They know fuel won't last, and 2 wheels might carry them further than 4. Survival looks different now. It looks old, stripped down, practical. I keep thinking about how fragile our systems were. Everything we built our lives around, grids, networks, supply chains, it all fell apart in a single night. And now the things we forgot, the things our grandparents and great-grandparents leaned on, are back. Wells, gardens, wood stoves, barter. It's like the clock was rolled back a century, but with the shadow of foreign boots on our streets. I picked up another fragment on the shortwave earlier, too faint to catch the whole thing, but I heard enough. Underground rail active. Southwest corridor. I don't know what that means exactly, but I think survivors are building routes, safe lines for people to move through the chaos without being swept up by patrols. Maybe it's only rumor, but I believe it. People are stubborn, and when everything collapses, they build tunnels, hidden paths, secret lines. They've always done it. If you're listening and you're alone, know this. There are others out there trying to weave something from this wreckage. Don't move loud, don't move fast, and don't trust openly. But listen for the whispers, because the whispers are where life still clings. This is 107.4 FM, and I'm Reed Daniels. The city is cracking, but inside the cracks, people are trying to survive together. Quietly, secretly, because survival is louder when it's shared. The hours are dragging on, and the light outside has settled into that dull gray wash that passes for morning these days. I've lost track of the exact time, but I know it's still early. Too early for the streets to be this empty, this lifeless. This is 107.4 FM, and I'm Reed Daniels. My voice is holding, though every word feels heavier than the last. I've been sweeping the bands again, chasing scraps of news, scraps of hope. Most of what I hear is static, but a few words cut through now and then, like ghosts trying to reach across the dark. And one of those words keeps repeating: counterattack. Some say it's already underway. Some say American forces have regrouped further inland, out past the reach of the coastal strikes, and are pushing back. I've heard mentions of Tennessee, whispers about Kentucky, even a voice claiming Texas is massing what's left of its National Guard. None of it's confirmed. None of it is certain. But it's out there, spreading. Here in Richmond, the air doesn't feel like counterattack. It feels like occupation. Patrols are moving with more confidence now. The marks I told you about yesterday, those red stripes, they're multiplying. Whole blocks are being painted, as if someone's mapping us like a territory. The locals who once stood on their porches with rifles are gone. Some melted into the shadows, some may be dragged away. And yet, the whispers of resistance persist. A man trading batteries outside the old post office swore he saw a column of foreign vehicles hit with roadside explosives near Petersburg. He said he saw smoke rising, heard gunfire for hours, then silence. Could have been anything. Could have been nothing. But he told it with the conviction of a man who needed to believe it. That's what I'm starting to see. Belief is the new currency. Food keeps you alive, water keeps you moving, but belief keeps you from lying down and letting it all end. And right now, people are clinging to the idea that somewhere, someone is fighting back. That this country isn't done, that it isn't just ashes and boots pressing us into the ground. I can't say I've seen proof. I can't stand here and promise you an army's marching to save us, but I know this. Occupiers bleed. I saw it yesterday when locals lit up that convoy near Monroe Ward. And if a handful of men with rifles and firebombs can do that, then somewhere out there, a unit, a brigade, Maybe even an army can do more. Maybe they already are. I want to warn you, though, hope is dangerous. It can steady your hands, or it can blind you. Don't run toward the first voice promising rescue. Don't follow the first convoy that claims to be American. Check, question, doubt. Because I've heard enough broken signals to know the occupiers are clever. They'll mimic us, lure us, use our hunger for salvation against us. So hold on to hope, yes, but keep it guarded, like a candle cupped against the wind. As I speak, I can hear something faint in the distance. Not the scattered gunfire of looters, not the sharp bursts of rifles. This is deeper, heavier. Artillery, maybe, carried on the air from miles away. If it is, then something big is happening out there beyond the horizon. Maybe it's the occupiers testing their grip. Maybe it's someone hitting back. I can't know. But my chest tightens at the thought that maybe, just maybe, the sound of thunder out there isn't just another city burning. It's the sound of someone refusing to let this land go without a fight. This is 107.4 FM, and I'm Reed Daniels. The world around us is cracked and breaking, but whispers of a counterattack are alive. And until the whispers die, there's still a reason to keep breathing, keep waiting, keep holding the line. The day has dragged forward, though time feels broken. Like every minute is stretched too thin, and every hour bleeds into the next. The sky hasn't cleared. It's still washed in smoke, a pale and dirty color that makes it impossible to tell if it's morning, noon, or something in between. This is 107.4 FM, and I'm Reed Daniels. My throat is dry. My voice is rough. But I'm still speaking because if I stop, then maybe the silence swallows everything. Something new has started on the airwaves. I caught it this morning while sweeping for signals. A broadcast that wasn't ours. It came through clean, too clean. A steady voice, not rushed, not panicked. Male, accented. The words were English, but clipped, formal, almost rehearsed. It said, "Remain calm, do not resist. Safe zones will be established. Cooperation ensures survival." Over and over, that same cycle. Sometimes the voice shifts slightly, like there are multiple men recording the same script. The signal's strong, stronger than anything I've heard since this collapse began. It's not a rumor. It's not a faint whisper under static. It's deliberate, confident, intentional. They're broadcasting from inside our own networks now, taking our air, our frequencies, and bending them. I tuned across 3 bands, and the message followed. They want us to hear it. They want us to believe. But I don't. And you shouldn't either. Safe zones, cooperation. We've already seen what their patrols do. People marched at gunpoint, buildings stripped clean, red stripes sprayed on doors like brands. That's not safety. That's control. I think about the psychology of it. They know fear has settled in. They know silence gnaws at us. So they feed us a voice, steady and calm, offering a way out. But it's not a way out. It's a trap. A cage disguised as shelter. And if you walk into it, you won't walk back out. I saw something today that confirms it. Down on Grace Street, a convoy pulled in. Not military trucks this time, buses, civilian buses, painted white, with banners hanging from their sides. The words were bold in English. Relocation transport. Foreign soldiers stood guard while people were herded in. Families clutching bags, the elderly leaning on canes, kids carried in arms. No one was smiling. No one looked relieved. They looked empty, as if something inside them already knew this wasn't salvation. The buses pulled away slow, escorted by armored vehicles, and no one who watched followed them. They just stared until the engines faded. I don't know where those buses went, but I know they didn't take people to safety. Later, I overheard two men whispering in an alley. They said a friend of theirs followed one of the transports south, trailed it through back roads. He never saw it stop, never saw anyone let off. Just mile after mile until the friend finally lost sight. That was 2 nights ago. No one's seen him since. So when you hear those broadcasts, remain calm. Do not resist. Understand them for what they are. It's not guidance. It's conquest. They're not asking us to cooperate. They're telling us we already lost. But we haven't. Not yet. I keep thinking about the sound of artillery I heard last night. That low rolling thunder carried on the air. If the occupiers are broadcasting this loudly, this confidently, then maybe it means they're afraid. Maybe it means the counterattack whispers aren't just whispers. Maybe someone out there is striking back, enough to make them push propaganda this hard. For now, listen to me, not them. Stay away from buses, from safe zones, from any place where the voice on the radio tells you to gather. The only safe place is the one you build yourself, with your own hands, your own neighbors, your own strength. This is 107.4 FM, and I'm Reed Daniels. The enemy has taken the air, but we still have ears, we still have minds, and as long as we don't give those away, they can't take all of us. The day is dragging on, but it feels wrong, like the sun itself is sick. The light has no warmth in it, just a flat glow through layers of ash and haze. The city looks washed out, emptied of color, emptied of life. I'm still here at 107.4 FM, and I'm still Reed Daniels. My voice is getting thinner, but I'll keep speaking, because silence now feels like surrender. Something shifted on the radio bands this morning. For days, it's been whispers, broken signals, and then yesterday came those clear foreign broadcasts, ordering us to remain calm and cooperate. But today, for the first time, I heard pushback. The occupiers' signal cracked mid-broadcast, like someone punched a hole through their transmission. At first, I thought it was just interference, but then, through the static, a new voice bled in, quick, sharp, almost coded. It said, "Hold fast. We are here. Coordinates to follow." Then silence. Just a fragment, gone as quick as it came. But it was enough. Not long after, I picked up another burst. Different frequency this time, low and faint. A series of numbers read out by a woman's voice. Repeated twice, then gone. Numbers. That's not propaganda. That's coordination. That's resistance. I don't know where it came from. Could have been west of here, maybe further inland. But someone, somewhere, is fighting to take the air back. The occupiers know it too. Their broadcasts are repeating more often, hammering the same message like they're afraid of losing our ears. This morning, they even added something new. Rescue corridors will be announced shortly. Prepare to comply. Rescue corridors. That's the kind of phrase meant to sound like hope, but it chills me. It's too neat, too staged. You don't rescue people by broadcasting over and over that you're coming. You rescue them by showing up. No one here has seen rescue. Just convoys, soldiers, and buses that never return. On the ground, though, I'm seeing signs that the whispers of resistance aren't just on the air. Smoke rose up west of the river earlier, sharp black plumes against the gray sky. Not the random fires we've been seeing. These were controlled burns, deliberate. Someone hit something, maybe a fuel depot, maybe an armored column. The occupiers moved fast after that. I saw vehicles speeding toward the smoke, soldiers barking orders, rifles drawn. They were rattled. That alone tells me the fight isn't one-sided anymore. The locals are changing too. Yesterday they hid in silence. Today I saw a group of them moving quietly through the alleys, not scavenging, not running, carrying rifles, backpacks. One even had a radio antenna broken off and strapped to his gear. They weren't militia thugs. They looked sharper, more focused, like they'd been waiting for this. They didn't look at me, didn't stop, just moved steady west. Resistance is here, even if it's small, even if it's scattered. If you're listening, pay attention to the bands. When you hear numbers, write them down. When you hear unfamiliar voices breaking through, don't ignore them. They might mean the difference between being herded and being free. And when you hear the occupiers promising safety, turn the dial. Let their words rot in the static. I don't know what the days ahead hold. But today, for the first time since this began, I don't just hear conquest on these frequencies. I hear defiance, and defiance is louder than silence. This is 107.4 FM, and I'm Reed Daniels. The air isn't theirs yet.